Hi, One Stars. Thank you for joining me this evening. Tonight, I have the lovely Jade with us. So,
Hello.
Jade, if you could take a few minutes and tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is Jade. Hello. and I do actually quite a variety of different things. I'm a meditation teacher, an NLP practitioner, an empowerment guide, and I assist people in helping to see the absolute beautiful perfection that they already are. So that is my goal. I love taking people on soul journeys, teaching about self-care. I facilitate and I speak. I do storytelling, poetry, that kind of thing. But all ultimately falling right back into the same thing, helping people empower themselves.
That's lovely. Do you want to allow, do you have anything going on at the moment or coming up? Any kind of workshops or anything like that?
My self-care workshop was just finished, but I'm going to be doing another one here next month. I am also speaking at the Women in Bloom International Summit. So I will be speaking then. That summit runs from the March 19th until the 21st and has an array of amazing speakers of women who are just offering their soul wisdom, and I'm very excited for that. And I'm also going to be presenting at the Banff Wellness Retreat at the end of April. And I think those are the only ones open to the general public. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So, what I'll get you to do before we end the show or end the segment is to maybe leave those links in the comments if you'd like to, so that people can purchase online tickets. I know for the Women in Bloom, there's online tickets available, correct?
Yes, there is. There is. I do believe the Banff Wellness Retreat is sold out though now. So
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. And I will have the link for the self-care coming up in the next week or so.
Oh, perfect. That's lovely.
Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit more about the self-care side of things.
Okay. Well, self-care is something that generationally, I believe, has not really been taught to us. We come from a long line and a long system that has perpetuated exhaustion on top of exhaustion and has taught the suppression of emotions as well as taking that time for yourself and made that something to either feel really guilty for or to just not do at all. And with that, we've seen such a rise in mental health issues. We've seen a rise in disconnection from the self, disconnection from others. A lot of people just are not able to give in their relationships the way that they would like to give, whether that be to their children, their partner, their friendships themselves. And it's creating this really huge divot of lacking, just complete lacking from giving
Mm.
from this empty cup perpetually. We have an increase in adrenal fatigue and different states of nerve disorders and all sorts of different things that we never really had before. And I truly believe that it is from these societal imprints that have been left behind us that have taught us to care for our vessels last and not even how to really care for our vessels properly, including with the unawareness that we've had around mental health and emotional stability as well, and how to navigate uncomfortable emotions. And for a lot of people, self care is a really uncomfortable thing. So, what I like to do is to give a huge background around these things. I talk about the brain, I talk about the body, I talk about what happens when you're giving from these places and when you get to that space of exhaustion and guilt and cyclic guilt and neglect, how that affects the relationships and why ultimately self care should be considered a responsibility to yourself, and a non-negotiable one. The same way that you would get up and shower, brush your teeth, anything. This is something that just needs to be treated the same way, so that we're able to actually give it the capacities that feel authentic to us, that feel good to us, and also good to everyone around us. We live in a world where things are very chaotic and hectic, and there's a lot of increase in stress. And we all want to see the world heal, but really, truly, it does actually start with honoring yourself, because that reflection of what you're seeing outward is also partly what's happening inside for a lot of people. We have a lot of hurt people, exhausted people running around, hurting people, and exhausting other people. And in order to fix that, we have to dedicate and honor ourselves first. So that is why I am very passionate about that, and why those the self-care and the deep work kind of go hand in hand. If you are plugging in all the deep work and you're not doing the self-care, well, you're not going to create the foundation that you need to actually continue uplifting those layers.
What advice would you give someone to start off creating that foundation? If they actually want to do the work, what steps do you feel everyone must take?
Well, first of all, it's cultivating self-awareness. Cultivating self-awareness is at the basics. You need to be aware of where you're at. What
How
are
does
your
do that?
Well, start playing witness to yourself. Where are your limitations? Where are your triggers? How are you filling your plate? And where could you maybe afford a little bit more time to start honoring yourself, right? A lot of us say we don't have time, we don't have time, we don't have time. But it's about creating that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, if you're not aware of what's going on inside of your body, then you're not really going to know where to start to begin with, right? A lot of people don't even know what they like. Especially, you have parents coming out of, their kids leaving the nest, and they're like, oh my gosh, do I still even like the same things that I used to like? And, it starts with asking yourself those questions. What do I like? What don't I like? What parts of my life am I really unhappy with? What parts of my relationships, are triggering me? And where could I maybe offer a little bit more accountability or light or compassion or forgiveness for myself and for others during that process? But at the end of the day, you have to start asking yourself the questions. Where are you at? What do you want to improve? What do you want to embody? And what do you want to leave behind?
Yeah, that's for a beginner, I think that might be overwhelming.
Yes, you're right. It could be really overwhelming for a beginner.
Mm.
So for somebody who's literally just coming out fresh out out of the woodwork of like, okay, I need more self-care. Well, self-care is rooted in consistency and prevention. So what is something that you can do once a month, twice a month, once a week to honor yourself and just schedule it in? Just start there. Start by taking a little bit of space, whether that be the bubble bath, the walk, whatever it might be, and meet yourself where you're at. What can you really commit to? And if you've never taken really much self-care in your whole life, okay, well then carve out, a space for yourself once a month and start seeing how that feels. Once a month, go and do something that's rooted in actually caring and nourishing your body away from everything else, and see how that feels.
So, do you find with some of the people you speak with and try to help them with self-care, do they feel unworthy? Do they feel that, self-care isn't something that they deserve?
Yeah, that's actually a really big common one, especially working with so many people with trauma history, right? Um,
Mhm.
Trauma is abnormally normal, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, it really is. So when you get into that, I mean, there are huge states of self-esteem and self-worth that come up around that, right? A lot
Mhm.
of people are still struggling with their pro-life mechanism, in terms of feeling like they're even deserving to be here. They're still very confused about, hey, what is my purpose here? What am I doing here? Because they're still really stuck in survival states of mind, and that takes time and patience to rewire and to nurture and really nurture. It's
Yeah.
self-nurturing.
And do you find more of that evident in the younger generation or the older generation?
I find that they present themselves both in the older and the younger generation, but in different ways. Yeah, in different ways for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the struggles generationally are very quite different. So yeah, the self-worth and the self-esteem thing is there. It's a kind of a collective shadow for a lot of people. Um, but they present themselves for many different reasons, but all come down to the same kind of core archetypes of
They
inner child.
do. Yeah. The ancestral trauma that keeps following us down the line. Different story, but same outcome. Different journey, same outcome. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing too, right? A lot of the younger generations are, are actively starting to understand that they're here to break generational cycles. This is something that's become really
Mhm.
common speak within the younger generations. Is okay, breaking cycles, breaking cycles. They're recognizing the ways that the societal impacts of the past, their ancestors, their generations, and their own unique lineage stories. And they're now actively trying to rewire and to break those things. Whereas the generations that are a little bit older, we're still kind of living in the ramifications of what those impacts actually were. They had to endure that firsthand, from the way that our
Mhm.
society has been structured. And, they were still just trying to break away into basic survival, for their children, right? So, the generations that are now after that are now taking and building upon that foundation. Okay, hey, you survived and you were traumatized. Okay, how can I build upon this framework now and expand from that? Which is what I think ultimately we always hope that our children would do anyways, take everything that we've done and flourish and expand on it and find their own with it as well.
Well, and I think that's happened down the generational line. I mean, I
Hmm.
just think we're at a point now where we are maybe more aware.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so much more information coming out about it.
Mhm.
There's so much more talk about it, and especially in terms of mental health and the way that our society is structured and run, and understanding that it's not really serving the way that it needs to for people to feel safe and secure. So there's a
Well,
huge.
and I feel the invitation is there to be true to you. Maybe not in every circle. However, the invitation is there more now than ever before.
Absolutely. And with that, there's been a huge exposure of shadows within our system, right? Things that need the
Mhm.
attention in order for that wholeness and integration to really happen. So we're seeing, a huge uprising and all these things, and people going, "Oh my goodness, the world is going to shit." No, it's not.
Mm.
You're just seeing things now, that you never really saw before, because we're finally having an opportunity and an awareness to shine in on that.
Well, yeah, and something I like to point out is, when it's dark and when it's chaotic, just imagine yourself being that seed that's about to burst out into the beautiful sunlight. Like
Yes.
you need the fertilizer to make the seed grow. So just,
Mhm.
allow yourself to be fertilized right now and flourish from it, grow, learn, become this beautiful being that you've always been.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like, that's a great and a perfect analogy. The seed is underneath in the dark, in the dirt. It's being
Mhm.
it's being kept. It has all of it what it needs there, and then the sunlight comes in and just pulls it right up. You can't have one without the other, and they're actually both super super integral to living a life in a whole and balanced state. You need to be able to acknowledge
Mhm.
all of those aspects of the dark and all of the aspects of the light, and live in between both of those spaces with more ease and grace. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I feel for a lot of people, they didn't realize they've been living in the dark all of this time. So, having all of this thrown at them right now is pretty overwhelming. And, coming from a place of lack, you don't know what's going on. So,
Absolutely not. Yeah, scarcity mindset is a huge deal. I mean, scarcity
mhm.
mindset pulls in, all the fun things. It triggers the ego in a whole bunch of different ways, because all it's trying to do is keep you safe, right? Your survival mechanisms are at play. We may not be running from saber-toothed tigers, but we have a lot going on in this world right now that is, activating that fight, flight, freeze response. And
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, where's my safety? Where's my security? Where's my survival?" And it is super overwhelming to surrender as well to what's happening, and just know that you have there's like the only control that you have is really within taking care of yourself to the best of your capacity, which can be
Well,
super difficult for people now in this time and age.
but that's what's beautiful about it as well is everyone, and I'm speaking loosely here, people have relied on others to keep them safe and to guide them. And now we're coming into a time where we're being asked or invited to go within and to actually listen to that inner guidance system, which I believe is absolutely beautiful. And I'm so grateful to be here to actually get to be a part of this great awakening.
Absolutely. And I mean, and the flip side of that too is that like balance is everything, because community and support is also extremely important. And where our Western society has maybe depended on others to kind of tell us what to do and where to go and have that external validation, what needs to happen, there's also been a real serious disconnection from actual village mentality and actual community mentality for those that are soul aligned tribes, in which can actually help each other grow and flourish, right? It's been all kind of put onto the system. And there's been a lot of like a keeping up with the Joneses mentality for
Exactly.
alone, but not having the integral pieces to actually go within and discover what's happening, because there's no frame of reference. There's no village mentality. We're not looking to our elders. We're not looking to the wisdom of those who are before us, because a lot of us maybe don't have that support network. We don't have the friends and the things, So it's that disconnection has been, a huge part of creating the fear around being vulnerable, around vulnerability to exposing those things that are needed to journey within and actually heal.
Absolutely. And another big part of that is, keeping up with the Joneses. Not only that, people have wanted to do better. And it's, what, if I buy more, I'm the better person, all material, material, material. And now people are realizing that material stuff is not going to help you anymore. It's not going to give you that self-gratification, because it's being not taken away, but it's being, what am I looking for? It's harder to get. It's not as important. Yeah. So
No, that's it. That's very true. You can be in a house full of beautiful things, but if you don't have people to share it with, and you don't have, happiness within, then it's all just going to feel pretty meaningless at the end of the day, right?
yeah. So it's the most beautiful invite to go within. It's just go within. You'll find the calm, you'll find everything you need within, with the breath. Just breathe. Hi Brian,
Absolutely.
hi Ryan, thanks for joining us. Yeah. Ah, it's lovely. I'm so grateful that you were on to share this tonight, because I think it's something that a lot of people need to hear, and people need to realize they're not alone. As a collective, there are so many people waking up and going within and realizing that it really does start right here. Like you said, in our vessel, healthy life, health, just going within.
Well, and it's amazing how little, when we look even into our school systems, how little is actually taught to us about, caring for our vessel, and that's one of the things that I always tell people, because they're like, how did I get here? And I'm like, well, you were never taught right off the bat. We didn't have the modeling. A lot of us, watched our, mothers, sit down last to eat, be the first step to do the dishes, and never take time for themselves. We watched our brothers work, day in and day out, or whatever that situation may be, or maybe our modeling systems looked a lot different than that as well, right? So maybe there was an absence of where also the lack of modeling can come from families also coming from like addiction and different levels of trauma. So there's a lot of wider ranges in that story, but it does come down to the modeling element of it too, right? So if it wasn't modeled for you, how do you know? And, it's not that you've dug yourself a hole, it's that you were never really taught how to care for your vessel. Our health classes, even in the school system, are just so vague. They don't teach children about their brain, even at the basic levels, to help them understand what's happening when they're feeling overwhelmed and melting down, or to explain to them what's happening when they're feeling happy and regulated. There's a disconnection of actually teaching people the pertinent importance of what it means to care for your physical vessel, and how that's needed for optimal happiness and health.
And instead of putting out the invitation there to share, children were made to feel like there was something wrong with them if they thought differently or did something differently, or if they wanted to question something. And that's another thing that's great about today, in this moment, in this present time, is that that invitation is there to be different, to speak about what's going on. Mental illness is recognized as a regular thing now. And it's the changes are beautiful for the most part.
I think with any, detoxification process and anything that's progressing, you're always going to find bugs along the way. You're going to find things that
Mhm.
you're going to find things that are a little bit harder to maybe are more uncomfortable to deal with. But, ultimately, as long as there is progress, then that's beautiful, right? And you're totally
Mhm.
talking about the kids being shamed for thinking differently, being differently. I totally resonate with that. I was one of those kids that was told to climb a tree, and in the school
I
system.
was too.
But yeah, that didn't work for me. The things that other kids found super easy, it was like, what? But everything that they found super difficult, it was like, that's easy. So I was just very opposite minded in many, many facets. And was very thankful for a love of reading books, because who knows? I don't know if I would have gotten a full education had I not been
Well,
loving.
and with all of that being said, I believe it played out exactly the way it was supposed to, so that we can be here now to do what we're doing. So,
Absolutely. It kind of opens your eyes up to go, wow, this system really isn't for everybody. And,
yeah.
like, there's so many different styles of learners. And I mean, let's face it, our public school system for a long time has been overloaded and also outdated. So we still kind of try to make the fish climb the tree. And, I'm so grateful, though. There are a lot of amazing, beautiful teachers who, are now in this generation of people who have now graduated, saw that and had that same issue and went into the system and went, oh, no,
Yeah.
no, no. This is what we're going to do. We're going to mold young minds in a much different way. I'm going to bring new tools to new tricks to the old dog, so to speak. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I see that everywhere in so many different circles, so many different tribes. People are coming together and reaching out to your neighbor and saying, I don't know how to deal with this. Can you help my child? Instead of saying, you know what, we don't talk about that. It's that community, that village is finally coming back, and people are coming together and helping one another.
A big reason I moved actually out to a small town was actually partly this issue. My son was diagnosed with speech praxia. So this is like he couldn't move his tongue, didn't really know how to formulate words, but all the comprehension was there. So he was smart, understood everything, but really couldn't get out his words. And I started noticing something wrong. I went to my doctor and said, oh, I think that there's something happening here with his speech. She told me I was being an overprotective first-time mother and sent me home, and didn't want to file the thing. I went back. I really think I should file this. And she reluctantly filed something for me towards the government, but there was like an 8-month waiting list. And I went,
Oh,
no, thank you. So I went and just got a private, went to a private company, got a diagnosis for him. I was right. He ended up having, speech praxia. And so there's this thing called PUF, and they do funding where they will help with speech therapy, occupational therapy, things like that for students. Well, the Edmonton system being so overloaded and crowded, offered this to Kai, but they wanted to segregate him into a slower learning class, which, would have been fine if he was having learning challenges,
Mm-hmm.
but that wasn't really the case for him. He had all of the comprehension and was able to learn just as everybody else. That would have, like, should he have been placed in a class that was for him. So I didn't really feel that was right. So I was like, well, no, because but that's where the PUF funding went. It was all into the extra learning classes. So I came and had family that lived a little bit, excuse you, out of town, and the school here not only contracted Puff out to the school, he was put in the regular preschool class, and he was put. And they weaved in all of everything with him, and then did some private things with him on the side. So he was able to be in the class with kids that were at his in his age group, at his speed. So he wasn't segregated, and that was a huge deal for us moving out here, actually. And the team of people that he works with at his school are just phenomenal. He ended up, by the time he hit kindergarten, didn't need Puff at all anymore. You couldn't even tell he had an issue with speech at all anymore. And he does super well. So I'm really thankful that we decided to try to outsource for that, because it's hard. It's hard when the system is so bogged down and there's not enough funding to really all the kids where they're at, right? So a lot of kids kind of get swept and lost in those spaces.
Absolutely.
Which is important, especially in those development years. You need to make sure that your kid is getting the attention and the help that they need, and that they're in the programs that are suitable for them, right?
Well, and I mean, one thing that bothers me is when we do go and see a specialist or a healthcare practitioner or a teacher or anyone and say, I feel that there's an issue here, like, can we look into it? And we're told no. That, oh, you know what, you're just being an overprotective mom or an overprotective parent, or you're reading up on Google too much or something, because the majority of the time, the parent is right. We have that connection with our child. We know when something's not right.
Yeah. And it's interesting how many just try to shift that intuition. And I'm glad that I didn't, listen in that circumstance. But I will say that there have been many other circumstances in which I was misguided in my own intuition and being told that, no, hey, that you're wrong based off of the standardized look of things. And, I learned not to do that.
Trust that inner gut feeling, because it will never lie to you.
Yeah. Well, and my mama, the mama bear instinct for sure in me is like, I'm like, you know what? So what if I'm wrong? I'm just going to go and double check.
Yeah. I'd rather be wrong than, be right and have nothing done with it.
Absolutely.
Any day.
And, I was fortunate to be able to have the resources to get that initial assessment, because, I mean, that's not the case for a lot of people. Those outsourced things are rather expensive. So I recognize that a lot of people got trapped inside the system and they just don't have that option at all. Mm-hmm. Where the system needs to kind of be repaired from the inside out, for sure.
And it's happening.
It is, yeah.
It'll take a minute or two, but it's happening.
Just a minute or two. It'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, before we end here or close, I have a question for you. Have you ever remembered something you didn't know you forgot?
Have I ever remembered something I didn't know I forgot? Wow. I mean, I feel like the list of things might be shorter to ask me if there was, I feel like this whole journey has been a journey into remembering exactly who I am without all of the adversities in which I have encountered on my way to this spot right here. And I am very, very grateful for that remembering.
What a perfect answer. Because it's so true.
Yes, it really is. What are we underneath all of the things that we've been told that we are or that have been imposed and imposed onto us? That is the question
Oh,
for sure.
what a
Once
deep question. That's
again,
a segment all in its own.
is it ever? Yeah.
So, in closing, is there anything you would like to leave our viewers with?
Oh my goodness. Well, aside from just recognizing that underneath everything, all the adversities that you've encountered, anything that you may be struggling with right here and now in the present, to just take a few breaths and remember that you are absolutely perfect exactly as you are. And underneath all those things that you already know that you are, follow them. Follow them and run with them. You will not be disappointed that you chose yourself.
Yeah, I love that. That's yes. Breath, always with the breath.
Breath is life.
Yes. So I would like to thank you, Jade, for joining me this evening.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I know you could be anywhere tonight. You chose to be here. I am grateful for that, and I am grateful for you. See you next time. Much love. Namaste.